Andy Goram, the Rangers legend, has died at the age of 58 after a short battle with cancer. He was simply known as the goalie. He won 43 caps for Scotland. His manager, former Scotland manager Craig Brown, joins us on the line. It's truly, truly devastating news. In fact, he was only 58 years old. He knew he had terminal cancer. He knew he had just a few months to live. And you also spoke as well, didn't you, when you heard about the news, and said you were really heartbroken. And you've talked about this fabulous letter that he wrote to you as well when he left the Scotland squad. Tell us about what you remember of him and these cherished moments that you had, Craig.
Well, of course, he was a very popular guy, not only with his own players, with mainly the Rangers team and with the Scotland team, but even the opposing team. You know, he was loved by Celtic, and I remember Tommy Burns saying, the late Tommy Burns, the manager of Celtic, saying that Andy Goram single-handedly won the championship for Rangers against Celtic. He said, not for Goram, we would have won that championship that season, when he had a particularly good season. He was also a wonderful goalkeeper and a very nice chap, Andy, and you mentioned a letter he wrote. When he left the camp, there was a lot of media noises about him leaving because he felt he wasn't going to be first choice, and therefore he was going home because of that. But his letter, quite clearly, beautifully written incidentally, his calligraphy was brilliant. He's a wonderful handwriting exhibition. When I read his letter, it was copperplate writing, and he thanked me and the staff for everything we had done. He wished Jim Leighton and the team all the very best, and he explained he had to return because of personal reasons, and it was not football reasons. So it was nonsense to say that he felt, and a lot of the media said, oh, he felt he wasn't going to be selected and it was going to be Jim Leighton and not Andy Goram. But Andy very courteously wrote this lovely letter to me, which I have in his own hand, and that's typical of the guy because he had so many attributes to make him such a popular individual.
Yeah, it was back in the days, wasn't it, when Scotland were qualifying for major tournaments, and there were those 3 games at Euro 96 that he'll be, you know, live long in the memory of Scotland fans. You were both inducted into the Hall of Fame at the same time in 2010 as well, and must have really happy memories of you know, Scotland playing it in major tournaments with him between the posts as well. What was he like then?
Well, obviously he was outstanding, and you know, we played 3 matches and two clean sheets. He kept a clean sheet against the Netherlands and against Switzerland. We lost goals against England, but Gazza's goal, I think, is an exceptional one. So the only goals we lost there were against England, and in the qualification we had 10 games to play. Now I can't honestly at this point in time remember how many he played, how many Jim Leighton played, but we lost only 3 goals in 10 games. We had the two, in my opinion, the 2 best goalkeepers in Europe at that time, Andy Goram and Jim Leighton. And Andy was the one that I selected to play in the finals in Euro 96, and I would not regret that because he was outstanding. And as I said earlier, a very popular guy in the dressing room, a good teammate, and everybody liked Andy. He was a character, and he was full of fun and good nature. So, you know, it's happened to many people, this early death that we've been hearing about today. So although it was expected in the last few months, it's quite a tragic occasion, I've got to say.
I mean, he played for Rangers, who enjoyed so much success in the 90s, of course. He won the league 5 times, 3 Scottish Cups, 2 League Cups. How do you think Rangers will remember him, and how do you think the fans will be feeling about this right now?
Well, he's a cult hero there at Ibrox, and obviously when he played with other clubs at Oldham, I remember I go to see him playing at Oldham and at Hibernian, but you know, he's a Rangers legend, there's no doubt. The nickname the goalie just tells you everything. To be called the goalie is the goalie, you know. It wasn't the goalie. The emphasis was on the word the, I think, because they felt that he was the one and the best goalkeeper, and at that time there's no doubt he was. I heard that he had I listened earlier in your programme, over 700 games, but there's one significant game he played. he played willingly as an overage player in the Scotland under-21 team. Now, in those days, the under-21s were allowed to play one or sometimes two overage players. Now, when you asked experienced players to play in the under-21 team, some of them took exception to that. They felt that they were a bit above playing in the under-21 team. And I remember when we asked Andy, no problem, absolutely delighted. And he was that kind of guy. He would have played in any game, a street game, any game. So all the 700 and odd senior games he played, one that I think is an interesting one, to be prepared and willing to play as an overage player in the under-21 team of Scotland, I think tells you about Andy.
The fact that he was such an icon, he was such a talent, did he set the standard then for goalkeepers going forward?
Yes, I think you know, his goalkeeping coach was Alan Hodgson, who was a former English international player, and Alan used him a lot for demonstration purposes. He made videos of him. He made videos also of the other two goalkeepers we had at the time, Jim Layton and Brian Gunn at Norwich City. So, and he's got very good video material of coaching exercises. And Andy Goram, of course, he was so athletic, so agile and mobile, terrific goalkeeper, strong as a horse too, and you know, I just can't speak any more highly about him. In every respect, in a football context, he was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah. Many were lucky enough to see him in action and see his skills. You were lucky enough to know what he was like as a person. You've touched on his character, but really just sum up what he was like, I guess, as a person, how his friends and family and those closest to him will know him.
Well, they know him with great affection, I'm sure. Those who played with him all have great affection for Andy Goram, and those who managed him, and I'm included in that. You know, there was always media speculation about why was it Goram, why was it Layton, because, as I said, we were the two best goalkeepers around. And, you know, I picked the one that I felt who was in form at the time. And it was totally wrong to say he wouldn't have played in the World Cup, because we had to play two games in the USA. And we were going to use Jim Layton in one and Andy Goram in the other, and then decide on the goalkeeper. But Andy had personal problems and had to leave, so that made the decision for us. But, you know, I just can't speak highly enough of him as a footballer. As a guy in a footballing context, was absolutely outstanding. A very talented after-dinner speaker as well. I've been in many occasions with him, and he had the place spellbound, I can assure you. They loved his every word, and he really was, again, he was quite unassuming, because he would tell stories against himself, and that's not common amongst many of the people that speak, but he was very, very modest. And a cricketer, I've got to say that, he obviously must have had an eye for a ball, which was exceptional, because he wasn't the tallest goalkeeper, but he was athletic and he could get that ball. And his use of it too, he was a good outfield player if required. He could, in the present game, the modern game, that's the way they play it now, with the goalkeeper being instructed very often to start attacks, to keep possession from the back, it would have been no problem to Andy Goram.
Absolutely. Craig Brown, thank you very much indeed. Always hard to speak about those who you know well. Andy Goram sadly passing away today at the age of 58 after a short battle with cancer.